All right, guys, don't forget to check us out online, therevolutiontv.com. There you're going to find links to our Facebook, Instagram. Reach out to us. You're not alone. therevolutiontv.com.
When you submit your will, your dreams to a real Heavenly Father who's very much alive, He will take you at your word and seriously set you on His path for impact. For Mattie Montgomery, he was given a great gift of rock stardom early, but that trust had to be built, and it all hinged on Mattie not just believing, but knowing this uncreated God was really guiding his life.
You know, in the midst of the success that the band experienced, something that was always on my mind is this thought that this isn't going to last. You know, we would be playing concerts all over the planet for thousands of people a night and seeing these tremendous opportunities come, and it never felt permanent to me. You know, I was always very aware that this is not who I am. You know, I remember right at the beginning of my career with the band, I met a guy that was a vocalist in a band that I really looked up to as a kid, and I said, "Hey, do you have any tips for me?" And I thought he would give me tips about music or performing or something, and he said, "Yeah, never become Mattie from For Today." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, you know, you can be Mattie the friend, Mattie the Christian, Mattie the dad, Mattie the husband, but never become in real life who you pretend to be on stage." And that's good advice. To be honest, I didn't realize how good that was at the time, because Mattie from For Today, that title didn't mean anything to anybody when he said that. We were playing for about 3 people a night. But then people started to care, and the band started to matter, and people started to elevate that guy that they called Mattie from For Today. And that phrase, that bit of advice, always stuck with me. That I had to remember to find my identity in things that would remain, to find my identity first in Christ, and then to find my identity in the things that He's given me to steward throughout my life, things like my wife. When I met her just a few years into my career, married her just 2 or 3 years after I joined the band, and then a few years after that, as we started having kids, we had our first little boy, and then I stayed on the road and had another little boy, and so I had my wife and my 2 kids, and this whole time I'm asking God, you know, I know that this isn't forever, and when you say to let it go, I will, because this is what I do. This is not who I am. I'm going to glorify God on whatever stage I stand on, and whether that is, you know, when I stand between my 2 little boys' beds at night, when I tuck them in, and I preach the gospel to those 2 little kids just as excitedly and enthusiastically and passionately as I did on a stage in front of 2,000 people at the band's last concert. You know, I want to be consistent in the way that I burn for God, whether it's on a stage in front of the whole world or just in front of my 2 little boys or my wife. And so I would seek God regularly and say, "God, you know, whenever you say to let go, I will." And early in 2016, I began to feel like something shifted, and I was out on tour, and I called my wife maybe a week or 2 into the tour, and I said, "This just feels different, and I don't know why." And she said, "Oh, okay, well, let's just pray about it." And after a couple weeks, I started to feel really strongly like it just didn't fit anymore, and I. Not that there was anything wrong with it, you know, nothing bad was happening. It just wasn't me. I felt like something had changed. I worked up the courage to go and tell the rest of the guys in the band, and they were so cool and understanding and awesome. And so we did it. We started planning, you know, how we wanted to finish. We wanted to finish strong. We didn't want to just disappear. And so we scheduled a farewell tour for the end of 2016, and it was an extensive farewell tour. I want to say we went to like 12 or 13 countries on 3 continents over the course of like 3 months. I think it was 61 shows that we played. And so it was serious. It was a serious tour. But, you know, every night when we would do this tour, it was such a sweet thing to realize that this is our last time doing this in this city. And so we'd get done playing a concert, and then I would stand out in the street, and I'd talk to every fan and hug every person and thank them for being there and pray with them. I mean, we met people that are married now that met each other at For Today concerts. You know, we met people who who showed up 6 years ago to a concert and gave their life to Christ and are now pastors, and people that were struggling with suicide or addiction who'd been set free. And so these people were coming back to say, man, this is what this band has meant to me. And even on top of that, even at the very last concerts, we saw many people come to Christ. I remember at the band's very last show, we were sitting up in the green room after playing our last concert ever. I'm dripping with sweat. And my son, who was 5 at the time, he looks out the window of the green room and he sees this room full of people and he says, Daddy, look at all those people. And I said, yeah, buddy. And he said, we need to go tell them about Jesus. And I said, you want to come with me? And he said, yeah, I do. And so he hopped up in my arms and we went down there. And I'll never forget, we're meeting people and doing pictures and autographs, and then this guy came up. His name was Luke, maybe a 19, 20-year-old guy. And I said, man, do you follow Jesus? And he said, no, man, I don't. But I've really been thinking about that a lot. And I said, do you want to make today the day that you start a relationship with God? And he said, yeah, I think I do. And so I've got a picture somewhere of me and my 5-year-old son as he's in my arms, and he's got his hand on this guy's shoulder, and I've got my hand on his other shoulder, and we're praying for him as he's giving his life to Christ, after the band's very last show. If I'm going to find what God has for me, it's not going to be through pride or my self-sufficiency. I'm going to have to remember just how dependent I am. I'm going to have to remember just how desperate I am. And if it weren't for that desperation, that thing of desperation that got in me back in the summer of 2006, I don't know that I would have made it. I would have bought into this idea that my talent was enough to get the job done. Or I'd have bought into this idea that my ability to communicate was enough to get the job done. But the truth is that I am in desperate need of God every single day. I am in desperate need of help every single day. And if I ever lose sight of that, I'm gonna miss it all. And I think about his faithfulness to me over the last 20 years. I mean, since I lost my father, and over 20 years since I lost my father, and then on through the day that he invaded my life there on the steps of my college dorm, to that month I spent out on the road hitchhiking, to the 10 years I spent on the road with this metal band. I saw the goodness of God and his willingness to keep pursuing me. Even in the times that I was distracted, even in the times that I was tired, in the times that I was weak, he was never far away from me. And I could always feel his hand like right on my back saying, just another step, kid, we got this. Sit today as the president of a ministry that is touching people all over the planet. And there's not a day that I don't get together with my staff and marvel at what God has done with my life. I mean, of all people, I could think of thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are more qualified than me. God isn't looking for the most qualified. He's looking for those that are willing. Or let me take it a step further and say, God's not just looking for people that are willing to be used by him. God is looking for people that are eager to be used by him. Man, I don't know any Christians that would say, no, God, I don't want to be used by you to change the world. I think everybody's willing to do that, at least for the most part, or just about everybody, right? But they say that, I'll go wherever God calls me, and I'll do whatever God asks me to do. But then we demand that God come into our bedroom and kick the door down and shake our bed and say, "Wake up! I'm sending you to Zimbabwe to go preach the gospel to the president." But the truth is, I think that God is waiting to see who is eager. The people that aren't going to wait for him to come and say, "Mattie, I need you," because he doesn't need me. I think he's waiting for people that are going to come bang on his door and say, "Use me. I'm here. Here I am. Use me." I'm not waiting for you to come searching for me because there's nobody else that can do this. Because the truth is, if I didn't do it, somebody else would have. God's not going to lose his glory if I'm lazy or if I'm selfish. God will have his glory. It matters to me if I get to be the one to bring it to him. And so I wasn't just willing to be used by God. I was eager. I was desperate to be used by God. And so I feel like I've jumped in heaven's dumpster over and over again saying, I'll take whatever scraps you got lying around, because in this thing we call ministry, there's no room for dignity. There's no room for self-indulgence. There's no room for comfort. We've got to be all in with no compromise and no questions and no hesitation. In spite of having ended my time with the band, I'm more excited and hopeful about the future than I've ever been. I know that God is faithful. I know that there will be no end to the increase of his kingdom and his peace. And so the kingdom, the things of the kingdom that I get to experience in the future aren't even fit to be compared with the things of the kingdom I've experienced in the past. And the things I've experienced in the past have been amazing. And if the past has been that glorious, then I can't wait to see what the future holds, because there will be no end to the increase of his kingdom and his peace. And I want that in my own life. And so I believe for myself that my story is not done. And while my time with the band might be, God is just getting started with me.
All right, guys, it has been an honor to have our friend Mattie Montgomery on the show. And you know, it's crazy. It was like yesterday. I remember getting a text. I was watching soccer, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, man, I'm coming into Louisville tomorrow." And I was like, "What?" Sure enough, he was speaking the next day. So I said, "All right, let's go get some food." And Kat and the boys, we joined him at a Mexican restaurant. And he sat us down, and he told us, "Guess what? I'm getting ready to leave for today. We're doing our farewell tour in a couple months." And I was like, "What? That is your platform. That's your ministry." And he said, "No, I feel like God has told me that chapter is closed, that it's time to really pour into other areas, to go share the gospel around the world in a different way." And I was like, wow. And he mentioned to us, he said, "Hey, you know, being a dad, that's bigger than ever being Mattie from For Today." He's like, "I want to be known for being Mattie the father, Mattie the husband, and I want to share the gospel around the world." And I was like, wow, it takes a lot to be at the height of whatever your chosen profession is. In his instance, it was music. He was at the height. And then give it all away to serve God, to hear God and say, "I'm going to close this chapter because he wants me to be a husband and a father first." That just put him several notches higher in my book, because he heard God and he exactly did what he said.
The Lord certainly builds the man and then the ministry. He cares about the order because he cares about you. But as far as Mattie goes, there's definitely some exciting things around the bend for him that the Lord has highlighted this new season. These are the days that you were created for, to exist and make impact in. We're living way below our identity, swallowing the lies culture feeds us through the media and trends. And if you're feeling that unction right now, this is your time. Ask Jesus to forgive you and submit your will to him. Ask him to be the Lord of your life, and watch over the next few hours and days that he will start realigning his purposes for you. For the earth is waiting for the sons and daughters of God to be revealed, to arise and to shine. We love you guys so much. Thanks for watching The Revolution. And if God is for us, who can be against us?